Shiny Pokémon, the occurrence of a Pokémon being colored differently, is usually quite rare, being either a 1 in 8,192 chance in generations 2 through 5, or a 1 in 4,096 chance from generation 6 onwards. Due to this, not everyone will just naturally stumble upon a shiny. However, you can go out of your way to increase the chances of seeing one of these discolored monsters. The simplest way is by getting the Shiny Charm, a key item introduced in Black 2 and White 2. Upon completing the National Dex, you get the coveted reward of a charm that grants 2 additional shiny rolls per encounter. This turns the 1 in 8,192 into 3 in 8,192, or roughly 1 in 2,731, with the same going for the 1 in 4,096 chance becoming roughly 1 in 1,365. Already we have such massive increases to your chance of finding a shiny Pokemon, and better yet, it's permanent, meaning you will always get these boosted odds. Unless you're some Pokemon like the Regis in Sword and Shield, or how in the faithful remakes Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the charm only works on eggs for whatever reason. This is also not the only time there's a permanent increase for shiny rates. For in Legends Arceus, if you complete a Pokemon's Pokédex entry, you receive an extra shiny roll, and if you perfect it, you get an extra 2. Add in that the shiny charm has an extra 3 shiny rolls in this game, you can get up to a 7 in 4,096 chance, or a roughly 1 in 585.5 chance of finding that specific Pokemon shiny. I think that's it for permanently increasing your shiny odds, but that's not the only way you can increase your shiny odds, as there's a whole plethora of shiny hunting methods. The first proper shiny hunting methods we ever got come in the form of breeding. In Generation 2, where both breeding and shiny Pokemon were first introduced, you could increase the odds of hatching a shiny Pokemon if one of the parents themselves were shiny. This is due to a Pokemon's shininess in Gen 2 being determined by its DVs, which are like an earlier version of the IV system that would be introduced in Generation 3. This results in the offspring having like a 1 in 64 chance of being shiny. Probably the best odds in the entire series, especially given that this is a game with the 1 in 8,192 base odds. But the trade-off is that breeding in Generation 2 is really slow. With shininess no longer being determined by stats in Gen 3 onwards, this method would fall to the wayside until Generation 4, where we would get the Masuda method, named after Junichi Masuda when he revealed it in a blog post. It is a method where you get a boosted shiny chance if the 2 Pokemon breeding are from different languages, being like a way to incentivize the use of the GTS. This method gives 4 extra rolls in Gen 4, and gets bumped up to a whopping 5 rolls in Gen 5 onwards. As with most of the methods that will be talked about in this video, it stacks with the shiny charm, and so in the modern games you can reach the great amazing odds of 1 in 512. Generation 4 introduced more than just the Masuda method, for it also brought along the Poke Radar. The Poke Radar is a device that lets you chain wild Pokemon, and the closer you get to a 40 chain, the higher the chance there will be for a shiny patch to spawn, housing a guaranteed shiny. This method requires a lot of patience, attention, and some skill. It is very easy for a chain to break, being able to just break without you doing anything wrong. The Poke Radar also makes an appearance in X and Y, and to be honest, I don't really know how exactly it works in these games. I believe it's supposed to be similar to how it is in Gen 4, but I have never been able to get it to work. The final game where this device appears is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where it's similar yet different. On the surface, it's very much the same as it was in Gen 4, but there's a few changes under the hood, such as the odds of the chain breaking. Also, the shiny charm does not stack with this method, but it is BDSP where the charm only works with eggs. Moving on, we come to Black 2 and White 2, where there are the Pass Powers. The Pass Powers are powers you can get from interacting with the Entralink feature. There's a wide variety of powers you can get, ranging from ones that increase your XP gain to getting discounts at the Pokemarts. What we are looking at here is the Lucky Power, which can bring the shiny odds to 1 in 4,096 normally, or if you have the shiny charm, a very fine 1 in 2,048. There's not much else to this one, but it does count as a method. X and Y not only had the return of the Poke Radar, but also introduced chain fishing, a shiny hunting method that worked exclusively with a fishing mechanic. This one is quite simple, you just fish. The more you fish successfully, the higher shiny odds become. However, it is very easy to break the streak. If you move, if you reel in too early, if you don't get a bite, your chain will break. The Suction Cup's ability is a massive help for this method, as it increases the chance of getting a bite. It's also believed that finding a tile that is bordered by non-surfable tiles helps this method, but I can't find any concrete confirmation for that. This method is one of the more interesting ones on this list, as there's a very limited number of Pokemon that can actually make use of it, being exclusively Pokemon that can be fished up. Also, feel like I should make note of hordes. While nothing super spectacular is going on, you do see 5 Pokemon at once, which means you're going through encounters a lot faster than normal. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire had the quite beloved PokéNav Plus, which was an amazing use of the bottom screen, including the PSS and other features from the X and Y bottom screen, as well as new functions such as the DexNav. The DexNav was a feature that gave the trainer information about the Pokemon on the route they were currently on. It also features the ability to search for specific Pokemon on any given route. As your chain and search level increases, the chances of finding Pokemon with egg moves, better IVs, and hidden abilities increase, and so does the chance of finding a shiny. It's kind of like a more player-driven Poké-Radar in a way. This method is quite simple to perform. I got a shiny Trubbish from it when I was just looking for one with the hidden ability. Gen 7 grants us a good few new methods, starting with the SOS feature. In the Sun and Moon games, wild Pokemon can call for help, and if their call is answered, another wild Pokemon will join the fight. Usually it will be a Pokemon of the same species, but sometimes they're special spawns, like the low-level Salamence from a Bagon SOS, or a Corsola crying for help alerting its natural predator, Marini. The shiny hunting part of this comes from chaining the calls for help. The more times a Pokemon answers a call for help in the same battle, the chances for stuff like good IVs, hidden abilities, and even shininess increases. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon introduced the Ultra Wormhole, a mechanic that lets you travel to other dimensions to encounter wild Pokemon, mostly legendaries. While all the legendaries aren't affected, the non-legendary Pokemon get increased odds. The amount the odds are increased are determined by how far you travel in the Ultra Space before entering a wormhole. While this is limited to only like 20 species, most of which are fully evolved, it is a nice consolation to find one when looking for whatever specific legendary you are trying to track down. To finish off our set of Gen 7 methods, we have the Let's Go Catch combo. This is exactly what it sounds like, where you just combo catches of a specific Pokemon. The chances of a shiny Pokemon appearing increases as you increase your combo, maxing out at a combo of 31, giving you an at best 1 in 237 chance of finding a shiny, if you have the Shiny Charm and Allure active. The catch with this method is that, unlike how everyone thought it was for years, the boosted odds only affect the very next spawn of the chain species, meaning if you want to keep taking advantage of these really good odds, you better keep catching. As expected with these chains, they can be broken. If you catch a different Pokemon or the wild Pokemon runs away, the chain will break. However, if you run away, the chain will stay active. So if you see a Pokemon using its flee animation, you can run to keep your chain alive. Sword and Shield brought what is possibly one of the most confusing shiny methods, and it's the 500 KO method. This is probably the least understood method. Once you knock out 500 of a single species, there's like a chance a brilliant Pokemon, the ones that have the glowing aura, will have an increased chance of being shiny. I'm not entirely sure. It's weird to have a big I don't know in the middle of this list, but it's just so weird and niche and not worth it. To the like 3 people in the comments that will probably actually know how this one works, please explain it to me. Same goes for the Callus Poké-Radar. Please just let me know how it works. The real meat and potatoes though for Sword and Shield methods is Dynamax Adventures. Though I guess it's not really a method, but it is some of the most fun, in my opinion, for shiny hunting. Base odds of 1 in 300, shiny charm odds of 1 in 100, 4 encounters per run. That's an average of like a shiny every 25 run-throughs. Add in that one of the 4 encounters is a legendary, and that the mode supports up to 4 players, meaning you can shiny hunt legendary Pokemon with your friends. Each run-through takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the Pokemon you encounter, and how lucky you get. But with odds this good, and being a perfect activity to just shoot the shit with some friends while maybe getting lucky, it might just be my personal favorite shiny hunting method. I will add, the playing with friends part plays a big part of the enjoyment. I do find them to get a bit tedious when playing solo. Also, it's very easy to lose shinies due to only being able to keep 1 Pokemon from each run. I've personally lost 3 so far. Moving on from the caves, we come to the past with Legends Arceus, which we talked about before with the permanent odds. This game also has some methods, being mass outbreaks and massive mass outbreaks. These 2 events are both quite common, and spawn a good bunch of Pokemon, and a whole lot of shiny rolls. Mass outbreak spawns have an extra 25 shiny rolls. Add in that you can get up to 7 permanent extra rolls, you can get a total of 32 rolls, which breaks down to roughly 1 in 128. Massive mass outbreaks, due to being multiple outbreaks at once, have a lessened amount at only 12 extra rolls, giving a max of 19 rolls, or a roughly 1 in 216 chance. Not a whole lot off from the singular outbreak, but that's not all there is for these outbreaks, as there is the permutation method. This method requires saving beforehand and catching/defeating Pokemon in set numbers at a time to change the incoming spawns. For example, you catch everything individually the first attempt, and if there's no shiny, you reload, and on your second attempt, you start by defeating 2 Pokemon in the same battle and then catching the rest, and so on. This method is definitely easier in massive mass outbreaks, especially on the outbreaks with a second wave. This method can be long and quite tedious, but while it doesn't guarantee you a shiny, it gives you a really good chance at finding one. I completely skipped over Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. We already talked about the Poké-Radar, but it also has its own unique method. In the new Grand Underground, you can find wild Pokemon. In the tunnels themselves, you can encounter Diglett and Dugtrio, which raise a counter that's out of 40. Once that counter is maxed out, you hear a whistle and it starts a burst of time, where sparkling statue boxes are more common when digging, and shiny Pokemon are twice as likely to appear in the underground. Again, Shiny Charm only works on eggs in these games, so there's no extra boost from that, but it's still something at least. We now reach Scarlet and Violet, our current final stop. This game has its own outbreak system, and they spawn a lot more Pokemon. You get an extra shiny roll for defeating 30 Pokemon, and another roll for defeating 60. Once you defeat the 60, you can just open and close a picnic, or leave and return to the area to keep re-rolling the spawns until a shiny appears without ending the outbreak. This isn't all for this game, for there are sandwich powers. Kinda like the past powers mentioned earlier, they are a bunch of different powers with different effects, but just way more accessible. And for what we need, there is Sparkling Power. Being available in levels 1, 2, and 3, the power gives extra rolls equal to the power level, so a level 3 grants 3 bonus rolls, and this stacks with Shiny Charm as well as Outbreaks. With the Shiny Charm, Sparkling Power level 3, and 60 defeated in an Outbreak, you get roughly a 1 in 512 chance of finding a shiny. As you may notice, that's the same odds as Shiny Charm Masuda method. Add in how breeding is such a pain in the ass now, due to being locked to the picnics, and that resetting spawns is just way faster than hatching eggs. They just completely outclass the longest standing method in the series. Unless you're looking for something that can only be shiny through eggs, which is mostly just the Gen 9 starters in this game, there's no real reason to breed for your shinies anymore. It is sad in a way. Another shiny method has caught up to the Great Masuda method. It hasn't always been the best odds possible, but it's usually always been either the best odds to find a specific target you're looking for, or the least complicated way to ensure you get what you want, and Gen 9 just came in and struck that down. It's a weird journey to look back at all the methods there's been in this series. There are people that dislike how easy shinies are to get now, and looking at the odds I can see why. But before I became a shiny hunter, I always just saw a shiny as a shiny. And now that I am a shiny hunter, that thought hasn't really changed. I couldn't really figure out how to explain my thoughts on the whole thing, until I watched a video by the creator Adaf. In this video, the creator Absolblogs Pokemon has a segment near the end where he's asked what shiny hunting means to him, and he says, to paraphrase, shiny hunting is the ultimate background activity, and it's a very personal journey. Everyone values their shinies in their own way. For some, the shiny is the end goal, and for others, it's about the journey. I believe the data for a shiny Pokemon is objectively worthless, since you can always hack in anything you want and make it look real. I'm deeply enamored with the journey to get the data. I love watching all the ways people take it on, be it through method hunts, Go Community Day, RNG, or even full odds, whether it be with 1 console or 50. What I love are the stories that can be told through that, the twists and turns, or the crazy circumstances in which shinies show up. Upon hearing this, I had my answer. Shiny Pokemon are just differently colored Pokemon, and in the end of things, you're the only one who can truly know if they're legit or not. This answer came to me when I was in the midst of my Darkrai hunt, which took me over 7,000 resets. This hunt really wore me down, becoming like a mini obsession, and during it, I had friends ask me why I don't just use RNG or create some kind of system that could run resets for me, and I didn't have an answer for the longest while, but now I have it. I make YouTube videos on all my big shiny hunts now. I don't shiny hunt for content. I want the shinies for personal reasons, but the way I hunt them gives the story for the content. Saying I used RNG manipulation for the shiny doesn't make a good story, unless I'm explaining how to RNG manipulate it, and that's something that's already been covered way better than I ever could. Making a bot to run resets could tell a story of how it came to be, but every other hunt would just be, oh, the bot found this. A bot cannot feel the emotions of nearing double odds for a hunt. They don't know the desperation, the sadness, the feeling of never-ending resets, nor do they get the elation of finding it, seeing the sun rise on an endless night. It couldn't explain the roller coaster of emotions that occurs during the hunt. At the end of the day, the shiny is just a shiny, but how I got there, how it made me feel, that's why I hunt. Alright, I think that's all I wanted to say. If I missed any methods somehow, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, and I'm serious about the 500 KOs and the Gen 6 Poke Radar. I really would like to know how those fully work. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing. Doing so really helps out the channel. If you want to further support the channel, consider becoming a member. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. This has been Big Blast 99, and I hope you all have yourselves a goddamn good one.